Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to dig into a retaining wall project which will preclude a California fire landscape video coming shortly.
Plan out your project beforehand, gather up all your tools and materials that you're going to need, and then also set aside some area for the dirt that you're going to pull out while building your wall. Call 811 before you dig to avoid disasters like this. I ended up hitting this just about 6 inches under the ground, and I was going to have to move it anyways, so no biggie. I'll just end up putting in a light pole where the splice is, and we're good to go. This little tractor has been amazing. I've used this thing so much over the past 6 months, and it's saved my back more than anything. It's important to know when you're finishing up your transfer, your base layer, that your first row of block or your base layer of block needs to be at least halfway under the ground. Mine ended up being about 3/4 of the way under the ground to all the way under the ground. This is just because the whole property is sand here, and I think that's probably a smarter way of doing it. Here we go. I am using a trowel, yes, and this gets me a little more precise, and it just seems to be the best tool for the job. Instead of using a shovel in here, I can take and instead of chipping off that back layer of block, that little notch that's on there for them setting on top of each other, whatever that's called. Instead of knocking that off, I just use this trowel and I can notch out a little spot in the sand, and this helps me set my base layer. I'd also like to believe that maybe this little notch in the back would act like an anchor and hold the block into place. I also have to mention that there's going to be a lot of people freaking out over not having any rock in the bottom. It's different for every soil type, and I have 7 different retaining walls around this property. The whole property's on a hillside and it's all sand, and it's been about 35 years for the oldest one, and it hasn't moved a bit. So it stood the test of time. This seems to be what's working for me. You'll probably also notice there's no string line and no marks on the ground. This is because I am doing what they call winging it, bud. If you are going to wing it, I do recommend using a really long level though. Also, there's not a straight line in this whole retaining wall. The whole thing follows the contour of the driveway and around a tree and then back around a walkway, so the whole thing doesn't need to be straight. After you're finished up with your base layer, all you need to do is start stacking block. Make sure that when you do stack this block though, that you chip off the little edges, because you want the blocks to sit on top of each other really flush and flat. That way they have no wiggle room and they won't rock back and forth. Here I make sure to fill in behind the retaining wall with sand. That way there's no voids, there's nowhere that this thing can go. It's now locked in. I'm packing everything in with that trowel and getting everything in place, so it will not move from here on out. As I said at the beginning of the video, this is the video before a fire safe landscaping video. So this is Blue DG. Blue DG is the base that I'm going to use for around the house for most of this fire safe landscape. DG, or decomposed granite, also makes a really good base where nothing is going to really want to grow, especially if you put this weed layer down before and then pack it in really tight. There's not a whole lot that's going to grow there. Plus, anything that does land on top, you can just take a leaf blower and blow it right off. Yeah, it may be a little bit dusty. They do have some compounds that you can spray on it to keep the dust down and lock everything in even more. but I don't really mind. I mean, it's outside. It's what it is. When I'm 70 years old, I'm going to want something low maintenance. So all I have to do is go outside, start up the blower, and blow off the whole outside of the house, giving it no organic material that can burn and making a fire-safe landscape around the perimeter of the house. I do have plans to finish this up on either end. One end is going to have a pillar with a water faucet, and the other end will have steps with a firewood storage rack. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.